What's up, booktube? It's Leah Cooper, and today I'm bringing you my March reading wrap up. I'm feeling a little down in the dumps at the moment. I got some not great news from work. I'm not laid off, but I got a letter today informing me that effective May 1st, my company was terminating matching contributions to our 401ks. So, I basically don't have a 401k anymore because I don't really feel like it's a very good investment if you're not getting company matching. Like I have other personal investment accounts that I have more control over and have better allocation. And so the only reason to have the employee 401k was the matching contribution. You know what I mean? And also that was just kind of like one of those things that this company held up as being an example of how they were really pro-employee, right? Even though they were kind of a big corporation, they're still like employee focused, but apparently not, because it took very little push to shove for them to just delete that. And I'm sure there's probably more on its way. And I mean, that's on top of the fact that our district manager was forcing us to stay open to the public for book browsing right up until our governor ordered our store to shut down, which is such a complete disregard for our health and safety that I was flabbergasted then. So I'm not actually surprised about the retirement thing. Just disappointed, I guess. So anyways, I'm a little down, but I really did want to get my wrap up done because I'm not going to get anything else read the rest of this month. I've already posted my April TBR, or most of my April TBR. I'll leave a link to that up above in the cards. I'm going to be participating in 2 readathons, both of which, the Owls and the classic SFF readathon, both of which start on April 1st. And I've got a ton of books behind me for that readathon, but I can't start any of them until April 1st. So the last couple of days of this month, I've just been reading The Historian. I've already gotten through about 100 pages of it. I'm going to try to get through about another 100 pages of it before the end of the month, which would get me to about here, which would be really good. That's going to be like some really amazing progress on this book that I've been getting through very slowly. I've obviously been reading this since like the second week in February, and I'm probably not going to get it done till like end of May, optimistically speaking. So yeah, but I did plenty of reading in March, and it was a pretty good reading month. Like, I think I read quite a few pretty good things. I'm just gonna pull up my spreadsheet over here so that I can have the dates from when I read everything. Okay, so it looks like the very first thing I finished in March, I'm just gonna scroll up and make sure I didn't finish anything. Okay, so the very first thing I finished in March was an audiobook, and that was Mira's Last Dance by Lois McMaster-Bujold. This is the fifth book, I think, in the Penrick and Desdemona novella series. This was not my favorite. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. It picks up right after Penrick's mission, where Penrick went on a mission to Adria. I think that's the kingdom. It was like over the sea. He was going to try to recruit this general to go back with him, but then it was all a trap, all a setup to discredit and overthrow this general guy. And he meets the general's half-sister, and helps them flee. I'm pretty sure they flee Adria, and they're going to this other, like, duchy up north or something like that. And this is the story of them fleeing to safety. And it's fine. It mostly deals with, like, Penrick posing as a woman and calling on the experience of one of his past lives, basically. His demon is his demon has like inhabited previous people before him, past writers are what they're called, and he has all of their memories and their personalities kind of still live on in him through his demon. And so one of the personalities kind of takes over and we explore some stuff. Just, it wasn't really to my taste. I just wasn't super interested in it. So probably the weakest one in the series, in my opinion, but that's just me. It was still fine. Like, it's fine, and it filled in a piece of the story. After that, I did a reread of Radiance by Catherine Valente. I reread this as part of a collaborative booktube recommendations video that is not up yet, but I will try to remember to link to down below after it's gone live. It's a secret project I can't talk about, but I reread Radiance for that. Still love Radiance, still give it 5 stars. I think it's fantastic. It's so much better than space opera. I know everyone's like gaga over space opera, and that's like how people are finding Valente, but I don't like space opera. And I think this is so much better and so much less known or less read. It's not an easy book, but it's a fantastic book. And then I listened to the next Penric and Desdemona novella, which was The Prisoner of Limnos. So this would be number 6, I think. Yeah, I wrote down number 6 in my spreadsheet, so that should be correct. And this one, again, picks up right after Mira's Last Dance. So basically, Penric's Mission, Mira's Last Dance, and The Prisoner of Limnos are a trilogy within the Penric and Desdemona series that really should be read together because they're a continuous story. And I don't really want to go into any details because it would be spoilers for the previous 2 in the sequence. But I liked this one a lot more than Last Dance. I think I gave it 4. It was just about stuff that I found more interesting, and I really enjoyed it, and I liked the way it ended. I really, really liked the way it ended. So yeah, I think there's a couple more books in this little series I still have left to read. And I'm kind of hoping, I think there's one more, but my library doesn't have it on audiobook yet, so I'm kind of having to wait for that. And then after that, it looks like I read Dragon Pearl, which this is nominated in the middle grade category of the BookTube SM Awards. It's written by Yoon Ha Lee. I think I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3.5 stars. I also read another one of the books nominated in the middle grade category, and so I can definitively say that Dragon Pearl will not be getting my vote, but I haven't read all 3 of the books in this category that I'm going to read, so I don't know what I'm voting for yet. But basically, I really was disappointed in how little the character really grew in this. I think there was a lot of setup in the beginning. It's about a kitsune fox girl who lives in this futuristic sci-fi empire on this planet that the terraforming kind of failed on it, and so it's like a really hard life. Her brother's in the Space Corps. She's waiting to get old enough so she can go into the Space Corps, and her family has to hide that they're fox spirits because no one trusts fox spirits because they're tricksters. There's also like dragon shapeshifters and goblins and maybe another type. There's ghosts. So there's like it's a really interesting blend of like sci-fi and magic. And I did like the world building aspects, but the plot had a lot of these moments where it was like the character would do something and then immediately all that they'd done would get reverted and they'd be back to square one, and it was so unsatisfying. Like, that happened at least 2 times, and I really hate when books do that. And it's just like, well, then why did you include the last 50 pages if it had fundamentally had no point on the plot? Just it's kind of annoying to me. It feels like retconning within the story. And then, like I said, I think the character had a lot of setup in the beginning where she was very flawed, and unfortunately the author just didn't do anything with that. There was some kind of token attempts to allude to some character changes, but they didn't really feel accurate or genuine. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed in this, unfortunately. I felt about it similarly as to how I felt about Erusha and the End of Time last year. Kind of had the same issues with Erusha, which was also Rick Riordan's Presents book. So I don't know. I might just not have the right taste for the books in that, from that imprint publishing line. Then, after that, I did read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, which I had to read because The Wicked King was nominated for the BookTube SF Awards. I gave this 4 stars. That's maybe a little generous. Maybe it's like a 3.75. It's fine. Parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't. I think Jude was a pretty interesting character. I don't like her sister. I don't like Locke. By her sister, I mean her twin sister. And it was really weird this month. I was reading 2 YA books, both with twins as the protagonist. Or like the protagonist was a twin, which was strange. Like, I guess 2019, 2018 was like the year of writing twin books. Anyway, like, I thought this was pretty good. It's broken up into 2 sections. There's like a book 1 and a book 2, and I think the book 2 of this is definitely much more interesting than book 1. Like, it really picked up and got interesting, and the end was pretty good in this one. And, you know, I went into this saying I just wanted an entertaining YA book, and I wasn't really too picky. I just wanted it to be like competently written. And I will give Holly Black this. It's competently written, like on a sentence by sentence level. And I know that's a really fucking low bar, but sorry, not sorry. That's the low bar a lot of fantasy YA has set. And so this was competently written. There weren't any like huge plot holes either. And I could stand to read it without my brain dribbling out my ears because of like the poor grammar and the poor sentence construction. So, you know, props for that. And it was like entertaining enough. Didn't like the romances that cropped up in this. But I think a teen would probably like them. They were very like high YA drama. So, yeah, there's that. Man, I can really tell I'm not in a good mood. I'm just like super low energy this video. Sorry. I probably shouldn't be filming, to be perfectly honest, but I just want to get this out and posted, so it is what it is. After that, I did read 2 things I really loved. So I read Small Spaces and Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. This is book 1, this is book 2 in the, I think it's actually called the Small Spaces series by Catherine Arden, and these are middle grade horror novels. So Dead Voices was nominated in the middle grade category of the BookTube SF Awards. I had to read Small Spaces so I could read Dead Voices. I loved these so much. I read Small Spaces in a day. It's a middle grade book. It's not very long. It's just over 200 pages. I read this one in 2 days. Really, I read most of it in a day. And these are so good. These are so entertaining. Horror is not my genre, but kids horror I can kind of get into. It's just scary enough for me. They're both blurbed by Earl Stein, you know, and who doesn't know about kids horror, right? So this one is about a girl, and her mother died about a year ago, and she finds this book that has this kind of scary story about the smiling man in it, and then she and 2 other students escape this school bus they're on right before the smiling man takes all the kids and turns them into scarecrows. And so they're trying to kind of like survive the night. They've kind of crossed into this like other world, and with these scarecrows who are like people they used to know, as well as a lot of other people, and they're trying to survive and figure out how to get out. And it's a lot of fun. I'm sure it's pretty stereotypical for like this kind of thing, horror, scary scarecrows. It was a little bit Doctor Who Weeping Angels. So if you're like into that, I think it's a lot of fun too. Then Dead Voices picks up, same 3 kids, but this time we get Olivia's point of view from this. She was the main character and point of view character in this book. We get her point of view again in this, as well as one of the kids she teamed up with in this book. So like the 3 kids from this book have become really close after their encounters in this book, and now they're kind of going on a little winter vacation together, and there's a haunted house, or it's actually like a haunted cabin, and they have to outlast the night and stuff. And this was a lot of fun too. I really appreciated getting the other girl's point of view. I'm hoping in the next book we get the boy's point of view. I can't think of his name at this point. He was not a very big character in this. Brian was not as present in this one as he was in this one. So I'm hoping we get his point of view in the third book. But yeah, I really loved these. At the moment, Dead Spaces does have my vote for the BookTube SFF Awards, but I have not read Sal and Gabby Break the Universe. So we'll see. But I loved these a lot. I can't remember. Did I give them 5 stars? Okay, so I gave this one 4 stars, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. They're really good books, especially for kids. Especially if you're looking for, like, a newer kids' horror series. And then the last thing I read... No, I read 2 more things. So the second to last thing I read this month was The Wicked King by Holly Black. I read this on ebook, so I don't have a physical copy of it, because my library's closed. What did I give this? I gave this a 3.5 stars in my spreadsheet. And yeah, I still feel that way. The first 100 pages are slog. Just nothing happened. It feels a lot like where the characters are now. Which is fine, I guess. But man, it was just kind of tedious to read. The middle was interesting. I'm now like trying to remember the middle. The middle was pretty interesting. There were parts of the third act that I liked. And I found interesting. And I still like Jude. I think Jude is an interesting and quite compelling character. And there were moments in this book where I quite liked Carden, and I thought he was really interesting, finally. And I was kind of on board for the romance with them, because it was like, it really did feel like enemies to lovers, reluctant team up kind of thing. And it was really interesting. But like the beginning was just so bland that I can't give it a 4 stars, because it just wasn't that enjoyable to read for most of it. I will eventually read Queen of Nothing sometime later after BookTube SFF Awards reading is done. I've heard a lot of people don't like it, so we'll see how that goes. At least it's shorter. I gotta give Holly Black props for, instead of going like the traditional route where she writes increasingly bloated books in a series, she's actually kept them slightly slimmer with each installment. Like, props, because that's a problem YA fantasy has. But yeah, it was like fine. That one is obviously up against The Gilded Wolves and what's the other YA book? Oh yeah, Sorcery of Thorns. It's right behind me. So I think I liked The Gilded Wolves better than The Wicked King. Like, my problem with it is there was a piece in the ending of The Gilded Wolves I really hated. So, to be honest, I don't really feel compelled to vote for either of them at this point. I'm really hoping Sorcery of Thorns blows me out of the water. Yeah. Because I think, like, The Wicked King had a better ending, but The Gilded Wolves had a better beginning, middle. And, like, the ending in The Gilded Wolves isn't terrible. There's just, like, one piece of it that nearly ruined the whole book. So, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm still waiting to be, like, awed by something in that category. But I'm not done reading it, so there you go. And then the last thing I read in March was a 5-star, great book, fantastic, totally overlooked by the BookTube community, I think, except for, like, one person. And that's who I heard about it from. That's Tess of the Road by, who's the author? Rachel Hartman? I think that's the author's name. Yes, Rachel Hartman. So this is set in the same world as Rachel Hartman's Serafina books, which I have not read. You do not need to read them to understand everything that happens in this book. It's fine. So I heard about this book from Kelsey over the Fancy Hat Lady Reads. She gave it a glowing review, was talking about it in her recent 5-star reads, or her 5-star reads of last year. And I decided to get an audiobook. Really glad I did. I loved it. I thought it was really interesting from start to finish. It's about a girl in a fantasy world where there are dragons, and there's something called Quigatals, which reminded me a lot of the Skrit from Guild Wars. They're different creatures, because, like, Skrit are, like, rat people, not tiny Komodo dragon people, but their position in society and kind of, like, the way they talk and their their ability with gadgets and stuff, it reminded me a lot of the script from Guild Wars 2. So you had dragon people, human people, Skrit, and then like world dragons, which the world dragons also kind of reminded me of the dragons from Guild Wars 2 too, except that the dragons in Guild Wars 2 are very destructive, and the world dragons in Test of the Road are not necessarily destructive. But there's a lot of crossover. I think that's one of the reasons it really did appeal to me too. So it's about a human girl who's ruined herself effectively because she comes from a super religious, conservative family, Western, Catholic, Protestant views of women, etc. And so she's ruined herself by having a bastard. And now she's trying to get her sister wed. She finally does, and she's kind of in a rock and a hard place between her family trying to ship her off to a convent and her just being desperately unhappy. And her half-sister Seraphina opens a door, basically, for her to run away. And that's what she does. And she meets up with an old friend. She has a lot of adventures. She has to do a lot of soul searching. And it's fantastic. It absolutely deserves a 5-star. It absolutely deserves more people reading it. It's just so much more mature. And, I mean, not deep in like a pretentious way, but it's talking about real stuff that's important. And it's doing it in a fantasy kingdom with dragons and Skrit and world dragons and stuff like that. And you can still have serious conversations, even in fantasy world. Conversations that have actual meaning and say actual things. And I definitely don't see that enough in popular YA. So give it a try. If it at all sounds interesting, if you at all like a road trip book, really try it out. I'm not a fan of road trip books usually, but I really liked this one, so I do highly recommend it though. So yeah, I will definitely be trying out the Seraphina books because I am very curious. Those sound like they're a really interesting, rollicking adventure too, even though I have basically been spoiled to them. I'm very interested in reading those still, so I'll hopefully be picking those up sometime later in the year when I'm a little bit less crunched to get awards reading done. Okay, so that's everything I read in March. Sorry for the kind of low energy, kind of depressed attitude. I think probably a lot of us are feeling that from one direction or another. I've actually loved being off from work because I hate working in retail. I've been writing this week. I've written like over 3,000 words, which is like crazy. I haven't written in months, it feels like. And I've been reading, which is great. I hope I get another week off, frankly. Even if it's unpaid, I don't care at this point, because like I don't want to go back to work, and I don't want to deal with customers who are probably sick and bringing their germs into my store. I do not want to deal with that. If you're watching this and like you're thinking about going to a store that you do not need to go to survive, don't. Stay home. Seriously. Those employees do not deserve your germs. And I feel like I have to say that because I had people coming into the bookstore because we were forced to stay open. People who were coming in, coughing, spreading germs. It is absolutely unnecessary. And I certainly do not get paid enough to get sick from you. And those other employees don't either. So yeah. And if an employee asks you to please step back, like, step the fuck back. Do not get in their personal space. Okay. That's my kind of like angry PSA. For everyone who, apparently doesn't work in retail and acts like an asshole. I don't think it's any of you watching this. I hope not, at least. Thanks for watching. Don't know what my next video is going to be. Maybe a tag. I do have a tag I need to film. We'll see. I'll see you guys. Take care. Stay safe. Stay home.